Hi, everybody, and welcome to Week 9 of Poppa's Picks, brought to you by FantasyDonks.com, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know to start playing daily fantasy football for absolutely free. I am Sean Big Poppa Williams, and I'll be giving you my picks for week 9 of the NFL season, just like usual. We'll start off, as always, with quarterbacks. The Millionaire Maker is going again this week. It looks to be like it will be the last week of the Millionaire Maker on DraftKings, so make sure you get a chance to throw a dart to become a fantasy football millionaire. Let's go ahead and start off with quarterbacks, and we'll be using the DraftKings salaries just to give you a nice basis for your picks. With the first quarterback off the board, we have Colin Kaepernick at 7,000 versus the Rams. He has the best matchup versus St. Louis, as they are a bottom 3 against the opposing quarterbacks. His price is also very nice and is one of the best points per dollar plays that you can make this week. I like Kaepernick to light up the Rams this weekend. The number 2 quarterback I have for you is the Red Rifle, Andy Dalton, at 6,300 versus the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Dalton is at home and gets the Jags, who have improved their D, but it's not enough to handle the Red Rifle, who will get A.J. Green back this week. I think that the Bengals will have a good week at home against the Jacksonville Jags. The number 3 quarterback I have for you this week is Tom Brady at 8,400 versus the Broncos. This game is the highest over-under of the week at 55 points. Brady is at home, and he's coming off a big game. His ownership percentage will probably be high because of that. The Broncos force teams to throw, and the Pats look like they have righted their ship offensively. I think that Tom Brady will put up another good game, if for no other reason, just to hang with Peyton Manning and the Broncos offense this weekend. The number 4 quarterback I have for you this week is Ben Roethlisberger at a $7,500 price tag versus the Ravens. Big Ben will probably be super highly owned, as opposed to his 1.3% ownership last week in the DraftKings Million Tournament. I don't think that the high ownership will matter. He gets a good matchup and is at home, drawing a division opponent, and the Steelers also seem to have figured out their offense. Just a little bit of caution here. Sometimes the Steelers-Ravens game turns into a bit of a running game dogfight, and the quarterbacks get left out. Other times, though, it's a quarterback shootout in that game. I'm banking on this one being a quarterback shootout if you're making the Roethlisberger play. The number 5 quarterback I have for you is the risk-reward play of the week at quarterback, and that is Alex Smith of the Kansas City Chiefs at $5,700 versus the New York Jets. Yes, it's true, Alex Smith hasn't thrown a touchdown all year to a wide receiver on his team yet, but he draws the Jets, and he is cheap and makes a great risk-reward play. I will also be talking about one of his targets a little bit later as to why I think it makes a great risk-reward play this week. But at $5,700, you got to love Alex Smith with the juicy matchup against the Jets. Now that we've wrapped up quarterbacks, let's move right along to the running backs that will hopefully make us money this week. And the first running back I have for you is Ahmad Bradshaw at $5,800 at the New York Giants. We'll put it this way. Bradshaw is good and healthy. He's clearly the best back in Indianapolis, and he gets to take on his former team who he thought did him wrong. He should get you plenty of points and easily pay off his $5,800 price tag. I love Ahmad Bradshaw this week. The number 2 running back I have for you this week is Ronnie Hillman at $5,600 at the New England Patriots. The Patriots are a bad team against the run. I would expect the secondary to have its hands full with Peyton Manning and company, meaning that if Hillman can get through the defensive line and get to that second level, he should have open field to run for days and could put up a monster. And at $5,600, that's the kind of player that you're wanting to put on your roster. The number 3 running back I have for you is Marshawn Lynch with a $6,100 price tag versus the Oakland Raiders. Lynch is coming off of one of his worst fantasy performances ever, and actually worst running performances ever for the Seahawks. I would look for him to bounce back and right his ship against the Raiders' run defense that is literally competing against all the other teams in the NFL to be the worst run defense in the National Football League. The number 4 running back I have for you is that of Hill of the Bengals at $4,000 versus the Jags. look, Giovanni Bernard is out with injury, and the Bengals are at home. And as a split back, Jeremy Hill was averaging 10 fantasy points a game. I would look for him to easily exceed that and hit close and actually get above even the 20-point mark this week as he takes sole possession of the Bengals backfield. The number 5 running back I have for you this week is the risk-reward pick of Alfred Morris at $3,900. That's right, a guy that was a top running back in the NFL a couple years ago has had such an off season so far that he's priced at $3,900, below at the time a second string, the backup running back for the Bengals. Morris is at the Vikings, and the Vikings are bad versus the run. Morris finally performed last week and gave us some good points out of him. I would look for him to see an increase in carries this week to protect RG3 coming back from his injury. I also think that Washington is smart enough to study game film and see that the way teams beat the Vikings is by running them to death because they're weak against the run. Now that we've got the running back plays wrapped up for this week, let's move right along to the wide receivers. And first is T.Y. Hilton on the board with an $8,100 price tag at the New York Giants. He is clearly Andrew Luck's favorite target, and Reggie Wayne is still banged up for that Colts offense. I think T.Y. can handle the Giants secondary, even though they're ranked fairly decently. And compared to the other elites and their matchups this week, T.Y. Hilton has the better matchup and is at a way better price point than the Antonio Browns and Demaryius Thomases of the world. The number 2 wide receiver I have for you this week is Jeremy Maclin at $7,600. He is at the Texans this week. Now, I'm going to preface this. Don't expect Maclin to drop the same bomb he did last week and put up monster fantasy points. I still think, though, that he's going to well exceed the 25-point mark, which means that Maclin is still going to stay on fire, and that barring any injury, I think he easily gets to that 25-point mark against the Texans, which are a bottom 5 secondary against the pass. The number 3 running back I have for you this week is that of Emmanuel Sanders at $8,000 of the Broncos at the Patriots. Remember, I told you this is the highest over-under line of the week, and Sanders seems matchup proof. I would expect him to get open early and often. Keep in mind, again, Revis should shadow Demaryius, which would make him have a better day. The contrarian play here, and I'm giving you a 2-for-1, is that of Wes Welker, and he is only $3,600. I realize Welker has been almost non-existent to this point in the season, but he is playing Belichick, who he thought did him wrong, and I would expect Peyton Manning to know that he has a chip on his shoulder and feed Welker the ball. I think that they can have that Welker and Peyton could have a really good day together, and that comes against a Patriots defense that is already bad against the slot wide receiver position. The number 4 wide receiver I have for you today is that of Andre Johnson versus the Eagles. Andre Johnson draws the Eagles, who are a bottom 3 pass defense, and they have one of the higher scoring passing attacks. That means that the Texans will have to abandon giving the ball to Arian Foster 45 plus times a game, and instead will rely more on the Andre Johnson factor, where he saw 13 targets last game, and that was with Arian Foster having a monster. I think you can expect that target count to go up. I think he can catch more balls and get in the end zone and put up a monster for you this week. I like Andre Johnson against that Eagles secondary. The number 5 wide receiver I have for you is the risk-reward pick at wide receiver, and that is Dwayne Bowe at $4,500 versus the New York Jets. Yes, like I said earlier, it's true that Debo has 0 TDs, and the Chiefs have yet to throw a TD to a wide receiver. I think this is where they right the ship in that aspect. The Jets are coming to town with their garbage secondary that has people that were sacking groceries playing corner. I think that Dwayne Bowe has the monster. If you've noticed, Debo keeps receiving the targets. And the nice thing about Debo as a risk-reward play here is that he doesn't goose egg you a whole lot. If he has a below-par game, it should hit the 10 to 15-point mark, which won't kill a team. But I think but we also know from Dwayne Bowe's past that he has the ability to drop 30 burgers on people. And I think this is the week against the Jets secondary where he could easily drop a 30 burger. Keep in mind here, though, part of the reason why I put this as a risk-reward play is that there are high wins expected in Kansas City. There are also high wins expected in the New York, in the Patriots Broncos game as well. But both those teams, just like the Chiefs, have a short passing game for the most part, and I think that is going to keep wind out from being a factor. But I think a lot of players will stray away from those teams because of the weather issues. With the wide receivers wrapped up for the week, let's move right along to tight ends and finish up Poppa's Pick segment with number 1 on the board. Should be surprised to no one this week is that of Rob Gronkowski at $7,600 versus the Broncos. Gronk loved to catch balls, and Gronk loved to put up a 50 burger last week against in last week's matchup. Excuse me. The Broncos are well below average against the tight end. Gronk should have another monster. The Patriots seem to have learned that their offense runs through Gronkowski, and that opens up the LaFells of the world to catch balls. I think Gronk will have another big day. The only issue here is that he is over $2,000 more expensive than the next tight end who I like just as well this week in Julius Thomas. That's the number 2 pick. He's at $5,600 at the Patriots. Like I said, this game is the highest over-under of the week, and the Pats are weak against the tight end. Revis will be shadowing Demaryius. They also have other decent corners in Brandon Browner and company. I think they're going to have their hands full with the wide receivers, which should leave Julius open to have a monster. I realize he's had a couple down weeks back-to-back, but that's just the kind of player you want to take in $1 million tournament because other people will be staying away from him because of the down weeks. The number 3 tight end, and to be fair, tight ends 3 through 5 you're going to see are all technically risk-reward plays because they're not surefire things at the tight end position. But number 3, we'll see Larry Donnell at $4,600 versus the Colts. The Colts are a bottom 6D against the tight end, and aside from the Steelers game last week, they cover wide receivers pretty well, which means Donnell should be poised to put up one of his monster games. Remember, it's not too far back that Donnell put up a 30-pointer with Cruz injured. I think that Donnell can possibly reach the same. But keep in mind, all 3 of these guys, if they don't show up, can hurt your team. But if you're throwing darts for a tournament play, Donnell and the number 4 pick, which is Travis Kelce at $4,100 versus the Jets, make great plays. Kelce has had a couple of down games recently as well, but I think he should bounce back against the Jets defense that is bottom 4 of the league against tight ends. I think this is where you get value play and what makes Alex Smith as a sexy play. Because like I've said earlier, he can throw balls to Kelce for touchdowns. He can throw balls even to the backup tight end and Fasano for touchdowns. He can throw touchdowns to Bowe, the new offensive weapon, and D'Anthony Thomas. Not to mention Jamal Charles is one of the premier pass-catching running backs in the NFL. I think that this is where the Chiefs could have a monster offensive performance. Travis Kelce with that $4,100 price tag makes a sexy play against the Jets this week. And number 5, the final of the 3 risk-reward tight ends, is that of Clay Harbor of the Jags at $4,200 versus the Bengals. The Bengals are the 2nd worst team in the NFL statistically against the tight end, and Clay Harbor will either put up a monster and exceed 20 points, or he'll be a dud and put up like 0 to 3. There really is no in between for Clay Harbor. Just know that when you pick these guys, you're picking them with a risk, with a huge upside, but they can also goose egg you. The matchups are super juicy for these guys. I like them a lot better than some of the other players that are a little bit more sound. But if you notice, the tight end position, actually the tight end position as a whole has been very fluky this year, with the exception probably of Martellus Bennett. And everybody's been up or down. They have monster games, then they have 0 burgers. Just be very careful and wary when you're picking a tight end. I like these guys. They have the better matchups. Hopefully they will put up big points for you this week. Thank you guys for watching another Poppa's Picks segment. Hopefully we make some good money this week. This is the week that I'm going to take down the $1 million, and if I don't, I want you to win that money. let's get it done this week. Good luck to you. Have fun and enjoy playing fantasy football. If you need to get a hold of us for any questions that you have about your fantasy football teams or about your daily lineups, please feel free to get a hold of us on fantasydonks.com, or you can hit us up on Twitter at Big Poppa Debate. That's at BIGPOPPADB and the number 8, and I'll answer all your fantasy questions that you might have. Have a good one, guys. Bye.